see a different approach from promoters over here than you do in the UK, because we're reliant upon boxing skill and the way I fight. Here have got lazy in the past, receiving money from broadcasters. Although that is changing. I'm going to show the money from broadcasters isn't there anymore in America, so they're going to have to be more reliant upon ticket sales. He's a great fighter. Hopefully that'll be a hard fight, but like I said, I put myself in this opportunity. This is meant to be.
Eddie,
how you doing, Mr. Yacht, mate?
All right. So I wanted you just to address a little bit of the Chris Eubank, his comments towards Kell Brook, and the fact that Kell Brook is a smaller fighter facing a 160-pounder, and basically calling you out, saying that he never received the contract.
He's a fighter, he doesn't receive a contract. His lawyer and his advisor, his father, received the contract. They were given a deadline for the fight, and they chose not to accept it. And Tom wanted to bring Gennady over to the UK. If it wasn't going to be the case with Chris Eubank, he'd go at the Forum on September the 10th. I didn't want that to happen. We had a chance to bring the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world to the UK. And in my opinion, you've got the pound-for-pound best #1 fighter in the UK in Kell Brook. So once Kell said he'd fight him, which took about 2 seconds, I spoke to Tom Loeffler, and we wrapped things up pretty quickly.
Now, where does that leave your relationship with Chris Eubank?
Okay, I mean, look, he's got a big future, Chris Eubank, and listen, he can fight the winner. But you've got to move at pace. If you want the fight, the deal was perfect, the terms were perfect. It's the same deal that Anthony Joshua was on. It's the same deal that Kell Brook accepted. So they just wanted too much control. And fighters have got to remember, fighters fight. They don't promote. Promoters don't fight, promoters promote. So the deal was perfect for them. They messed things around, they messed things up, but it doesn't mean they can't take the fight maybe in December.
Now, were there terms unheard of?
Yeah, it was operational stuff. They wanted to be involved in the operational process of the show. Ticket sales, fighter purses, undercard selection, security companies. It was just like, it's our brand, my license is on the line, and things have got to be done properly. If we're charging money for seats, we need a great undercard. They wanted to double the ticket prices, and I was the one that would get the flack for that. So we weren't prepared to do that, and Kell slotted straight in.
Now, I understand you weren't prepared. That's not the way that you normally do things, but is there maybe a realm where that was the way business was done with the Eubanks in the past before coming to you?
No, they've never been involved in a pay-per-view show. I mean, look, they would have made millions of dollars for this fight, so it was a big opportunity for them. They called the fight out for a long time, and I do believe they want the fight. But I think Chris Eubank Jr. is not involved in those negotiations. He's the fighter. But when they received the deadline, they chose not to accept it. We had to move on.
So it's not a situation where, kind of like the little boy that cried wolf. He called out Golovkin so much, and then the fight came.
But I believe he wants the fight. But he's not in charge of the decision-making process, and unfortunately the people that were unrealistic, and things can break down like that. So, like I said, but I think with Chris Eubank, you've got a fighter there who's a British champion, who is a very talented fighter. With Kell Brook, you have a world champion, you have one of the pound-for-pound top fighters in the world, you have the Ring Magazine rated #1 fighter, so he's operated at a much higher level. He is stepping up 2 weight divisions. But if you look at the size of him, especially next to Triple G there, he's really a light middleweight. So I look at this as a light middleweight stepping up to middle. But of course, we've had to stay at welterweight because that's where he won his world title. And no one wants to fight Kell Brook, even for a world title. So if you step up and lose your belt, then you've got no chance of getting the right fight. So, this is a fight that we are the underdog in. We do have small disadvantages in a weight, but actually it's a big disadvantage to Kell Brook to not be stripping himself down to 10 stone 7. So they kind of weigh up themselves.
But on the fight night, Gennady's 171, 173. Yeah. Fight night for Porter, Brook was 156, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, possibly a little bit heavier than that. I think he'll be, but don't forget that's because he's coming down to 147, and he's also making the £10 check round the next day with the IBF. So he doesn't want to move up and bloat himself on fight night. So he'll be, he'll be £4 or £5 lighter than Gennady Golovkin on the night.
Now,
we know that.
Is the IBF going to enforce that same 10-pound rule for Gennady?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And that was important for us. You know, one, because we'll know his weight, and two, because we don't want a guy who's fighting a middleweight to hydrate to 182 pound, you know, which can be done. People say Gennady's a small middleweight. I wouldn't necessarily say that. I would just say he's not a big middleweight. So it's definitely a disadvantage for us, but you know, we know what we're up against, and you know, the people that made the decisions behind this fight know what they're doing, and ultimately Kell Brook wants to challenge himself against the best fighter in world boxing.
Well, I got some tough ones coming for you. Obviously did a great interview with in London when this news broke, and you shocked the internet, but there was something you said in there that struck a chord, and I couldn't wait for you to come to New York.
Go for it.
You said you signed Kell Brook a long time ago, and you have yet to make your money, your return on him. Now you're putting him in versus what the world is calling the most feared middleweight, the most dangerous middleweight, 22 knockouts in a row. I mean, are you just getting your money? It sounds like a cash out.
No. That's not going to get me out of jail. But this is a fight you want to be involved with as a promoter and a fan. You know, Kell Brook went to fight Sean Porter. He beat him relatively comfortably in my eye. You know, most people had him a couple of rounds. I had it 4 or 5 rounds. From then, he picked up the injury. He got stabbed in the leg, and he nearly lost his career. He came back. He boxed Jojo Dan, which was a mandatory that was enforced. He boxed a Brit, Frankie Gavin, and then he boxed Kevin Bizier, which was another mandatory. So we haven't had the standout names. But I would say you've been seeing 50% of Kell Brook. In the Porter fight, you probably saw 80%, something like that. Now you're going to see 100% of Kell Brook. So, and that's a great fighter, And
so you're not fearful at all. I mean, seeing what Gennady has done to natural middleweights.
It's the most dangerous fight that Kell Brook could have taken. And this is the toughest fight Gennady Golovkin has had in his career so far.
Why do you say that?
Tell me a fighter that Kell Brook couldn't beat that Gennady Golovkin's beaten.
That he could not beat.
Yeah.
I would like to see Martin Murray. That's a big 168 pounder at the time. I mean, maybe Kell Brook beat him on points, maybe he doesn't.
He was 160 pound when he boxed Kell Brook. But no disrespect to Martin Murray, he's one of my fighters. But Kell Brook is, you know, I perceive Kell Brook as the best pound for pound fighter in Britain. So that's how I rate Kell Brook. But unfortunately for you guys, all you've seen is a snippet. And he came to America and beat, at the time, a welterweight that the whole of the American media and public were calling the Mike Tyson of the 147 pound division. Sean Porter was this wrecking ball. And he just came over, probably on about 78%, a little bit nervous, didn't really know what to expect, boxing outdoors for the first time in California, and beat Sean Porter with ease. And look at the fighters that refused to fight him. Vargas offered millions of dollars, Adrian Broner offered millions of dollars, Danny Garcia offered millions of dollars.
But wait, in that interview, you were very confident that the fight with Brook and Vargas was going to be made by that night, by that week.
Yeah, I was.
So what do you mean Vargas didn't take it? You said that the offer you submitted to Vargas was more than enough, that you were confident he was going to take it.
And I sent that on a Friday, and come Tuesday they still hadn't accepted the fight. But I believe they would have, but now they're going to fight Manny Pacquiao, I believe. So, you know, but as it happens, that fight was never, the financial dynamics of that fight, and I won't bore you, was never quite right. But it was the right fight for Kell Brook at the right time, until this fight came up. This is a chance to beat the best fighter in the world for 4 middleweight belts and still remain the IBF welterweight champion of the world. You've got to take risks. There's too many fighters that are settling on mediocrity.
But is this really a risk?
Of course it's a risk.
I mean,
what fight? You just said it. You said,
look at what happened to Khan, right?
Are you not afraid of putting your man in? So of course
I'm asking you the right questions, but I seen you in DC a couple of months ago. We had the same discussion, only the tables were turned. It was Khan that was supposed to be facing Canelo, and you said too little.
Yeah.
Canelo's going to flatten him. But you said he'll lose nothing. They have him as a martyr right now.
Amir Khan is a super featherweight. He's come up, he's been knocked out of lightweight, he's been knocked out of light welterweight, and he's been knocked out of middleweight. Kell Brook is really a light middleweight that has been at welterweight for a long, long time. And you know, we always felt that Khan would be too small against Canelo. He outboxed him for 4 or 5 rounds, and then he got knocked out.
But you do understand that the fans feel like it's hypocrisy, right?
What?
Like the both of you had a lot of choice words for Amir Khan moving up, and you know, just assuming he wouldn't be able to do it, and now you're kind of doing the same thing.
He couldn't do it, could he? He got knocked out.
No,
so we were right.
You're right.
That fight played out exactly how we said it was going to play out. Amir Khan would start well, and then he'd get knocked out.
And this one's going to play out?
It's going to play out like one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world, 36-0, undefeated world welterweight champion, fighting the most feared fighter on the planet. You know, at one stage you got the media and you got fans saying, oh, these guys, they never take any risks, they never step up in these kind of fights. And then you make the fight, and then people go, oh, this is crazy, this is dangerous. You know,
well, it is a bit crazy.
It is crazy, and it is, but what do you want? You know.
Well, you got to understand, what happens is, right, we wanted Mr. Kell Brook to step up for a long time. He did with the Sean Porter, but then it was kind of a hiatus for us U.S. viewing fans,
but
right?
The problem is, everybody in the US knows how good Kell Brook is. I'm talking about as a welterweight, right? So when you speak to Heyman, when you speak to these guys, none of the 147-pound fighters want to fight him. Actually, probably with the exception of Errol Spence. I'll give him some credit. I think actually he does want the fight.
I mean, Keith Thurman's been vocal.
Oh, listen, come on. Listen, they're all vocal to you. It doesn't matter who's vocal to you, does it? And you're not the one who's on the phone to these people saying, okay, there's $3 million plus US TV. There's 3 times as much as you've earned so far. Oh, I'm not coming to England. Why not? Because I don't want to fight Kell Brook. All right, we'll come to America. Just give us the UK TV.